all of a sudden, I think it was February of 2008, out of the blue, I get an email. From a guy who is an editor at a publisher in New York. And basically he says to me, I've been reading your blog, so that kind of, the implication is I like the way you write.
Yes.
Because one of my other blog posts that's actually on the sidebar is one of my favorites, is what I call Dinosaurs Blogging Rules. Because basically blogging is just writing. So Dino's blogging rules are, first rule is write well. Second rule is say something. And the third rule is mix it up.
No, absolutely.
So, and that the sidebar links back to that particular post. I consider myself a writer because all this blogging is also writing. I mean, I actually produced a couple of, I think I just looked, I've got 850 some posts by now. And, there are some that I've immortalized on the sidebar, but down toward the bottom, about 3.5 years ago, when I dropped my last child off at college,
wow.
I actually dropped him off at the same college that I went to. So, I was having, flashbacks and deja vu because there was exactly 30 years between it. So, 30 years almost to the day, here I am dropping my last kid off at the college I went to. And I wrote this piece about that, and it's called 30 Years Then and Now, and I still think it's some of the best writing I've ever done. Although, at the time, since I was still anonymous, one of the comments that still cracks me up was, your boys are so lucky to have a dad like you.
Right.
Like, yeah, dude, no one has a dad like me, by definition.
Yeah.
But so at any rate, I'm still writing. I'm still considering myself a writer. So I've got this guy sending me. So I've been reading your blog. I think the laws of the dinosaur would make an interesting structure for a book. Do you want to write it? So here I am being invited to write a book. I had never written nonfiction. I had just I've written novels. So, but I mean, are you kidding? Hell, write a book and get paid for it? Hell yes.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So a couple more emails go back and forth, and finally he sends me an email with an actual offer. Okay, we'll pay you this much, and all of the details. So I now know enough about publishing to know that even though I have this offer, I still need an agent to close the deal, to negotiate it further. And I know that there's enough that I don't know and that I still need an agent for. So, but I also now have the opportunity to write an email, to basically pick an agent that I want and write an email with a subject line that says, have an offer, need an agent. Because since I already have the offer, it's like the heavy lifting, the uncertainty part for the agent. The agent's job is to find things that they like, but liking it isn't enough. They also have to be able to sell it.
Right.
Except in this case, it's already sold.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So basically, I'm now in a position to get, I've got this sort of an in. And what this California lady did, she actually, one of, if not the most kick-ass New York agents is a woman named Janet Reed. It's like she's just like she's like a Hall of Fame. You talk New York agents, a couple of names roll off your tongue. Janet Reed is like one of the first ones. There's do you ever read the comic Bo's Cafe Life?
No.
Well, it's a comic, and there's this guy who's a writer, and there was a comic once where the one writer is saying to another, it's like, oh my God, I got this letter. She says she absolutely hates it. The writing is terrible. It's old. It's awful. And the other guy says, who's it from, Janet Reed? And the first guy says, no, my mother.
Oh boy. Huh.
But the point is, you can just plug the name Janet Reed in, and everyone, you hear Janet Reed, you think kick-ass New York agent, and to cut to the chase, Janet Reed's my agent.
That's awesome. I mean, that is
It's
that is so cool.
I mean, I basically ended up writing her a query letter that basically said, I've been invited to write this book, but I also write novels, and I really, I will need representation. So it's kind of freaky to me that, oh my God, I have an agent. So it's like this huge hurdle. I feel like I just got jumped to the front of the line. Actually, I've been trading emails with a doctor who's written a memoir and is trying to get it published, who actually found me through her blog or through her website. And one of the things he says to me is, I'm happy if you want to give me some advice, since you having navigated the stormy seas of publication. And I emailed him back. I said, I haven't exactly sailed the stormy seas. I feel like I was given a ride in a chartered jet.
So something I'm curious about is so the writing process then. So did you just take your blog post and scrunch it into the book, or like what was your process on writing the book?
No,
how
matter of fact,
how long did it take you to write the thing?
The book is all new material.
Wow.
The book actually took, well, it's funny. The original Laws of the Dinosaur, some of them were a little too, they really wouldn't fly with the publisher. For instance, one of them that did not make it into the final cut was, it makes it no less true, but fertility is inversely proportional to intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's true, but it was a little too politically incorrect.
Right.
So, yeah. And then the other thing was, what the book ended up being was each chapter basically takes one of those laws and expands on it.
Interesting.
So there were and explains, sort of explains it and goes through it. For instance, the chapter 2 about, it's impossible to make an asymptomatic patient feel better. So what do? You have someone who comes in and they feel perfectly fine, but their blood pressure is 180 over 110 and their LDL cholesterol is 208, they feel perfectly fine. So what do you do? And the answer is, you make them afraid.
Right.
You tell them, and you have to describe in as much detail as you can exactly what a heart attack feels like, exactly what it's like to have a stroke, and you get them terrified, and hopefully they'll take their blood pressure medicine, their cholesterol medicine, and not have that happen.
Wow. So how long did it take you to put it together then? Just
Well, I guess it took me maybe. Well, here's the thing though. It took me maybe 6 months or so to write it, like the first draft. And then it got sent off to the editor. The problem is the deadline was like right around the first of the year,
right.
And it turns out that publishing totally shuts down over Christmas.
Oh.
So no one looked at it for a while. And by the time he looked at it, or by the time someone looked at it, and I looked at it again, I read it and I said, oh my God, this sucks. So I basically rewrote it. All the editor said at first was, well, why don't you put all the stories at the beginning of the chapter and then all the rest of because there was all kinds of other stuff in it. Well, okay, when I sat down to do that, I'm like, there aren't enough stories in here. So a kind of a breakthrough, an epiphany that let the words flow a little bit better was, I don't have to actually remember a specific patient for a story. I can actually make stuff up because no one will know. Although the really funny thing is I did that. For instance, there's a chapter 9, which is poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I use that every day in my office.
Which is all about, I need a refill on my medication. Okay, what do you take? Well, don't you know? You're my doctor.
Right. Yeah, and I need it tomorrow because I'm going out of town. Oh, really?
Exactly. And so all of those things. So, but I realized I can just sort of make them up and like apocryphally. Except that the really funny thing is now, like last week, I listen to my staff on the phone, and I'm like, my jaw drops, and I go and I grab a copy of the book and I flip it up, and I'm like, look, it's right here. I wrote it. I wrote that.